Hey everybody, it's me, Rosie Bits, and you are here at Tantric Tips with Rosie Bits. Ta-da! We're back. Like and subscribe, all those good things. Okay, so this week we are talking about, you know what, shit just keeps getting heavier and heavier in the world at large at the moment. We're in January 2021 as I'm filming this. Today's actually Inauguration Day in the United States, and stuff feels heavy. So I want to talk about how not processing your emotion could be killing your boner. And by boner, I'm not being gender specific. You could have a lady boner or a dude boner or non-binary or a trans boner, all the boners. It could be killing all the boners. So I spent last week, I was thinking this topic came to me because I spent last week processing grief. It's my least favorite thing. As a recovering addict alcoholic, man, I really tried my best to avoid grief in any way, shape, or form. Let me tell you, if I could have found a way to drink, drug, fuck my way out of it, buy my way out of it, overwork my way out of it, creative my way out of it, I would have. There's no way out of it. Guys, you gotta process that emotion, because if you shove it down, not only are you gonna have to deal with it emotionally, spiritually down the line, but you're gonna have to deal with it physically. And what it's actually doing is getting stuck in your cells, in your body, and especially in your reproductive area. As I'll talk a little bit about, as Buddhists, what we think of that area, but it's getting stuck in your body, and it's it's really dampening your fire. It's making it really hard for you to have your full experience of your own sexuality. And from my perspective as a Buddhist, you know what? Your natural state of being is your Buddha nature. And that nature is bliss. Your natural mind is bliss. The same bliss we get when we experience orgasm. So your natural ability is to be experiencing a state of bliss at all times. And everything that happens, all the trauma that happens, or the frustration, or the little bumps and scratches we get through life, they are all things that block you to experiencing your natural mind, which is bliss. So now I'm going to go into specifically why I think if you're repressing your emotion, it's really going to dampen your libido and could quite literally cause erectile dysfunction in men, or other issues in women around having pleasure or orgasm. So as Buddhists, we believe, or as Tantric Buddhists of authentic Tantra and of 5 element practices specifically, I believe that our sexual energy is the highest energy we have available to us, and that energy starts in our reproductive area, our genital reproductive area. And that also, because that area is such an area of high energy, any type of trauma we go through is going to get stuck there. So you get into a car accident, boom, it's in your vagina. Right? Like, it doesn't have to be just sexual trauma, and certainly sexual trauma is stored in there, but everything, right? You have some really dysfunctional relationship with your family, stored in your genitals. And if you continue to repress this emotion, that's how it gets stored, right? It's like when you process the emotion, it's able to be released and move on. If you're like, no, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to deal with it, boom. So for example, last week, as I said, I was grieving the fully letting go of my last partnership, the really, even though it's been a long time since we broke up, it was for me, the final release and letting go, as well as a number of different things that have happened in my life. And like I said, I really didn't want to have to experience that emotion. It was not fun. It was boring. Grieving, feeling sad every day is boring. It was uncomfortable. I was revisiting memories that didn't feel good. I was feeling sad over letting go. But what I did is I just sat with it every day. And every day for about a week, I'd wake up and think, I feel sad today. And I journal, and I talk to my friends, and I get some support. and I would do just some gentle, cozy things for myself and not expect much of myself, because I was like, I'm grieving. I'm just going to take it slow. I'm going to walk in the sunshine if sunshine's available, or at least, be outside for a bit every day, cuddle my dog, who's, you can't see him, but he's sitting beside me right now. And I just sat every day with those feelings. And then eventually, about a week later, I woke up one morning and was like, oh, okay, I don't feel sad anymore. It's done. I guess that's it. And essentially, so that was something that wasn't highly traumatic, right? But that was just it could have become more traumatic if I had shoved it down, if I had overworked or overeaten or found a number of ways to shut that feeling down. But I didn't. So it took about a week to just process those sad feelings. And it's really okay for us to feel sad, to feel angry, to feel disappointed. All these emotions that we try to put a lid on, and there's this whole new age slant, which is good vibes only. Fuck that. That is some big time spiritual bypassing, good vibes only. And I'm somebody who thinks very positively and optimistically and believes that what I think really transforms what's happening for me in the world. But I believe that there's not an emotion that we can have that we should be turning away from. Every emotion deserves to be investigated, right? Should we sit and wallow? If I was going beyond that 1 week of feeling sad every day, I might get worried and need to ask for more help. If I was dealing with deep, overwhelming trauma, I would not have sat by myself. That's when you ask for more help. You get some support. You get to see a counselor. You ask your family. You ask your best friend. You ask your partner to sit with you. But essentially what you're going to have to do is you are going to have to go through it. There's no way around it. Believe me, I would have found it. There's no way around it. There's just through it. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happens when you've repressed this. So I have seen so many young men with erectile dysfunction. And interestingly enough, what it's become, you would assume premature ejaculation would be pretty normal for young men. That's something that happens for a lot of young men. But what I've been seeing is men having a real issue with getting and maintaining erections. And you know what, there's no scientific evidence for this. Sometimes, if you're a young man listening to this, don't get super intellectualized around it. Just let your penis do its thing. But, because sometimes it's just, it's an off night, or you're tired, or you're feeling nervous and your penis just doesn't want to rise or doesn't want to stay up there. No big deal, right? That happens. Penises are ebb and flow creatures, as are vaginas. We just don't get to see that. Sometimes we'll get engorged, sometimes we won't. But if you are noticing regularly, like I've seen a bunch of young men who are having consistent difficulty with their erections, then I would look to what emotions are you storing? Have you been fully processing your emotions? Is there some shame maybe that you're holding on to? Is there a repression of what you lived through within your family? Take a look and see what yet needs to come up. Because when I have a client who's having an issue with their erection, or even a partner who's having an issue with their erection, first of all, what I think is, oh, okay, no big deal, ebb and flow of penis, gonna let it just do its thing. But if it continues on, then what it says to me is that maybe there's some emotion that needs to be investigated. And this happens to women, trans people, non-binary people too, right? It's not unusual for women to be ticking along in their lives, they can have bad sex, good sex, great sex, and then suddenly come down with vulvodynia, or suddenly lose their libido. I went through about 1.5 years of having completely lost my libido. Gone. I was able to still, if my partner initiated sex, then I knew my body would start to get aroused, so I would go with it, but I didn't have any interest in initiating myself, which is super unusual for me. And, it was really hard to masturbate, to self-pleasure. And this is from somebody who, I'm doing this. I know how to build libidos and build that fire and all that yummy stuff. And I really needed to go back and look at what I wasn't processing. And part of what I needed to process is I needed to get out of my past relationship. Not because it was, abusive or anything like that. It just wasn't the right fit. I kept trying to make myself fit and make my partner fit, and it wasn't going to work. And by not allowing that to come to the surface, I was actually repressing my own fire. And also by, I think at that point in time, for me, much had come up. I was in a place where I created a lot of safety around myself, where much of my old trauma could come up. And rather than fucking through it, rather than just repressing it again and again, it got a chance to really come to the surface for me to investigate. And it took about 1.5 years of investigation, sitting with myself, taking that time before my libido was able to come back to something that is more normal for me. So, okay, you're like, okay, well, Rosie, like we all got trauma, we're living in a fucking pandemic, shit is hard, what do we do? So there are many simple things that you can do. Number one, if you feel an uncomfortable feeling come to the surface, sit with it, name it, see what it's about. What is it leading to? If you're feeling discomfort, anxiety, right now we're feeling a lot of anxiety. So it could be anxiety's coming to the surface and you're like, okay, this is the underlying anxiety that everybody's feeling right now. Got it. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do some breath work. I'm gonna just Google breath work. I'm gonna Google nervous system regulation and see what I can do in my own home to just help myself out. I'm gonna keep track of this. Every day I'm gonna journal. I'm gonna get up in the morning. How do I feel? Okay, I'm gonna journal for just a couple minutes, write down what you're feeling. If it goes beyond, I would say 2 weeks would be the max that you're gonna just allow yourself to process on your own. If you find you're getting to two weeks or beyond, you need help from somebody else. You need to seek out a counselor, you need to, talk to somebody that's safe and has some more knowledge. And you might wanna look into herbal remedies, to kind of maybe help alleviate the stress you're experiencing or the anxiety while still investigating this emotion. Because guys, you know what? This emotion's not gonna kill you. Going through it on your own and feeling deeply isolated, that can kill you. But actually just sitting with your uncomfortable emotions, they are just emotions. They can't do anything bad to you. Right? All they can do is come to the surface where you can give them some love and some focus. And then you actually take back the power because they're no longer underneath creating issues, and then you release them. And remembering as well to treat yourself with pleasure. So every day, like I ramped up last week my self-pleasure practice. I was sitting in grief. I was also being more conscious to self-pleasure. So I would say too, this is the only time, not the only time, but I don't recommend porn in general. I think it can be actually quite detrimental. But if you're feeling really shut off from your body and yet you can use a little bit of high quality porn or at least reasonable porn, so that means you're not getting into the things that are like extreme. You got like a 2-minute clip that's so extreme that you're gonna come momentarily. Google like Tantra or lovemaking or something that's gonna give you a porn that is from a gentler perspective. And if that's the only way you can get into your arousal, I would say utilize that. But at the very least, get into self-pleasure and even just give your genitals a massage. Even if you can't feel sexy, just get in there and be like, I'm just gonna give my genitals a massage every day, or I'm gonna give myself a foot massage or a hand massage, or I'm gonna stand in the shower with some aromatherapy for 10 minutes. However you can get back into your self-pleasure so that you're sitting with that uncomfortable emotion and you're treating it with pleasure, right? You're boosting those endorphins. And also when we go into self-pleasure, by self-pleasure I mean masturbation and also utilizing orgasm if we're able, we are releasing from our genitals any of that stuck energy that is probably coming out at any rate. It's probably saying, I'm ready to come out if you're just having those uncomfortable feelings rising to the surface. So you're dealing with whatever uncomfortable feelings come up as they come up so they don't get stuck. If other ones are coming up on their own, what you're going to do is you're going to do some self-pleasure to help them move along their way, to release them. And rather than retreating from them, you're going to say, thanks for letting me know what I have yet to heal. You're going to ask for help if you're going beyond about 2 weeks, or if what's coming up is really heavy. Or at any time, if you just feel like I can't do this on my own, please ask for help. There are 24-hour hotlines right now, free counseling. There are multiple, just so many groups online that you can join. If you send me a message, I'll get back to you and hook you up with somebody. Okay? But deal with that underlying emotion. And let me tell you, when people have done that, I have seen those boners rise proudly, triumphantly, happily, right? I have seen those yonis get engorged, and those, man caves start to juicy up, and all of the genitals really start to get on track again. So, my loves, allowing your trauma to be released mixed with pleasure is a magical, magical concoction. Okay, let me know how it goes. I love you, and I will see you on the other side.